Hi guys, it's Mike again, and my channel, the channel that I'm going to put this video on, has been shut down for over a week because I put a video up that breached YouTube's community standards. I don't know how it did, but it did. Well, I do know really how it did. There are certain things now that you can't say on YouTube anymore or on the other platforms. I mean, the really good platforms, because they are good platforms. That's one thing you can't take away from these people. YouTube is a fantastic platform compared to BitChute or brand YouTube. There's absolutely no comparison between those platforms and YouTube. I mean, the amount of film you can put on YouTube, you can put up on YouTube 4K and high definition, which you can't on BitChute or the other channel brand YouTube. Everything has to be shrunken down, so the standard of film isn't as good. Plus, it's hard to get any subscribers on there unless you're somebody like, we won't mention their names, who've been booted off YouTube, and famous people, and you can't mention their names now either, because YouTube, well, I don't know whether YouTube has, but it's on the verge of, but Twitter have certainly made a decision over the last week or so have Facebook, and if Facebook haven't, they are, but I think they have. They've made a decision that anything said about certain issues will be taken off YouTube, will be taken off Twitter and Facebook. As I said, I had a video removed from YouTube, and that was called a strike. Now, I've had videos removed before off YouTube and was never banned for a week, but they banned me for a week, and it was slightly over a week. They banned me for putting the YouTube up. It was called a strike. Now, if I get another strike, say they don't like this video which I've put up, and I'm criticising YouTube, and for YouTube's information, it's my opinion, only my opinion, and I've said YouTube's a great site, but for anything controversial, I think these channels now, you've just got to look at other things to put on there rather than things which are controversial. But a strike is, now you get a week's ban for one strike for a video being taken off. If you get 2 videos taken off, you get 2 weeks. But if you get 3 videos taken off, and this is all within 90 days, by the way, it used to be a month, but now it's 3 months. So if you get 3 videos taken off within 3 months, your YouTube channel will be totally cancelled, and you can't get on YouTube again. If you try to open up another channel and they find out, they'll just cancel that. So this is the situation that we're now in, and it's better to have a presence on YouTube than have no presence at all. So I've just got to go along with what I think they will allow and what they won't, and it's really difficult, because there's no freedom of speech anymore concerning controversial issues on YouTube or on Facebook or on Twitter, because our freedom of speech is being taken away from us. And the reason these platforms are behaving in the way that they're behaving is because pressure is being put on them by governments throughout Europe, and in America and in Europe and in this country, in Great Britain. Pressure is being put on them. They're being dragged before select committees in this country. YouTube are dragged before select committees and grilled by a Labour Party shadow minister at the time, Yvette Cooper. Was dragged before a Home Affairs committee and grilled, and they've had to employ thousands and thousands of people who censor YouTube, and also put these like robots in that censor YouTube, algorithms. So in a way, it's not really their fault. They've been forced to do it, by governments, or they'll be fined, or they'll pass legislation the government will pass legislation to enable them to destroy these companies. But you have got other companies who, like I said, BitChute and brand YouTube, and other companies that host videos, but they're nowhere near as good, and you can't get anything as near the subscribers as you can on YouTube. But this is the way things are, so you have to be very, very careful what you say, because everything's being censored, especially with what's happened in America recently, with the way the Democrats won that election. And you've got to be careful what you say about that. You've got to be very, very careful what you say about that on YouTube. You can't say anything now about, especially politics, which is controversial, or diseases, which is controversial, or your video will just be removed. It's going to get to the stage where you'll only be able to come onto YouTube to talk about how to bake an apple pie, or about ordinary things, but nothing to do with politics or controversial issues concerning politics, and how you disagree with politics and with your government. And I know somebody from YouTube will watch this, because there's only about 150 of us throughout the country who criticise, who indulge in critical dialogue like I do. And YouTube have well got us tabbed, so they watch everything that we do. But this is for YouTube's benefits as well. Thomas Jefferson, he was the third president of the United States of America, the third president. And he was president from 1801 to 1809. And he once said, when the people fear their government, there is tyranny. Do you understand me? When we fear our government, and our government starts imposing things upon us, which gives us fear, which is happening now, fear of losing our jobs, or fear of this and fear of that, which comes from the government, that is tyrannical, it's tyranny. But when the government fears the people, there is liberty, So we're voting a government in now. We've got ministers sitting on a cabinet, and I've always said this, who are, in my opinion, now I'm entitled to my opinion, who I believe could be narcissists, and probably are. And these people have no empathy with anyone, and these are the people who are forcing these platforms to censor people in the way that they are, threatening these platforms, you know what I mean? So that the platforms actually become agents of the state, but they've got no option really, have they, But when we've got a government that instills fear in us, wants us to be fearful of that government, and everything that it does is, how can I put it, driven by fear. It's a tyranny. It's as simple as that. Thomas Jefferson said that. A former president of the United States of America, But when a government fears the people, there is liberty. Do you understand me? Then we are liberated. We are free. We are a people. We elected the government, and the government does what we want it to do. But you've only got to look at what Boris Johnson's doing at the moment concerning Brexit in this country. Concerning Brexit, it's a dreadful deal what he's getting. Although Nigel Farage said it's the best we're going to get, so let's just say, well, at least we've left Europe. But I don't know whether this is true, but I've heard that a Prime Minister, if he wants to, without even a referendum, can take us back into Europe again. So if Labour get in, they can just take us back into Europe again anyway. Now, correct me on that, if you could leave a statement and tell me if I'm wrong. Leave a comment, because I could be wrong on that. I haven't researched it, because Brexit was the kind of thing that I kept away from. He's really stabbed the fisherman in the back, and what he's done is much better. It's near enough the same as what Theresa May was going to do, and yet she got booted out and he got in. He hasn't done much different than what she's done, And it's certainly not the Brexit that the people wanted. They've just ignored the people. Now you've got to remember, and I've said this to you before, there are only 25 people who've really made this decision, although it'll go to the House of Commons. It'll go to the main Parliament, where there are 625 people who have got to vote on this in some way or other. We'll see what happens in the forthcoming weeks. But they have what's called government whips, who go around and whip the people into doing what the government wants them to do, persuades to, and they have ways and means of doing that. And it looks like this is going to be passed, or if it isn't passed, this, how many years? 4 or 5 years this has been going on, and nothing's even certain now. Nothing's really being passed now, And this is the situation that we're in. we've got a government that's largely comprised of narcissistic personalities. A lot of them on that cabinet are upper middle class and middle class. No empathy with people, especially with working class people like me and people who live on council estates. They've got absolutely no empathy at all with us, you know. It's the House, at the end of the day, the House of Commons means the House that represents the common people, which I say all the time on many of my videos, because I try to hit it home so you'll remember it, But you've got to remember, we've got an oppressive cabinet there, 25 people sitting on a cabinet, ministers who are making dreadful decisions. There's things I could tell you now on decisions that they've made recently and things that have been happening. But I literally can't tell you because they'll shut down my YouTube channel. So I can't tell you. So I've got to just hope that you can guess what I'm talking about, which I think you can based on other videos that I've seen. But everything's changed now. They brought out new stipulations and new rules these social platforms have, which say that you must not talk about these things. So, when it comes to talking about these controversial issues and putting your opinions and your point of view and what you think, you'll just be taken off YouTube, and it's as simple as that. And it's too great a channel to be taken off, Better to have some presence, like I said before, than no presence at all on there. And some great people have lost their YouTube channels, because give them their due, they wouldn't bend. But, I don't know whether to say this, the graveyard is full of idealists. They're idealists, Idealism isn't going to get your presence. People aren't going to know you're there. Better for people to know that you're there, and better to talk about these controversial issues, but not say what they are, and just leave it up to you to imagine what they are, because based on videos, what you've watched before on our channel, you'll know this, But this is the way things are, guys, and unless we as people wake up to this, it's never going to change. The world is being run by narcissists and psychopaths, which I've said, and billionaires, narcissistic billionaires, a coterie of at least 60 of them at the top. They're like puppet masters over all our governments, globalists, and they want to stop and silence people like me in whatever way they can. Things are really bad, I don't want to push it too much here because I don't know I don't want another strike. Do you get me? But I don't want to take this video off because I have to keep my presence on YouTube. I do put videos on BitChute now. So if you go to BitChute and just put Michael Lane BitChute into YouTube, you'll find my videos. You won't find them on the BitChute search engine. You might do if you just put Michael Lane in, but it's Michael Lane in one word. You'll find controversial videos on that channel. I don't know whether YouTube can YouTube take down your channel because you're using another channel and putting stuff on there that BitChute don't like. I don't know. Everything now, mate, here's me saying everything, mate, like I'm talking to one person, but everything now, friends, is governed by fear, and this is the new normal, and this is what we're moving into. And these big companies have got no option. They're being forced into this by the governments. So don't think it's them individually and the people who own these social platforms. It's not. It's the governments of Europe that are forcing them into making these decisions. Like I told you what happened in this country a couple of years ago with the select committees. Now they grilled YouTube and people from Facebook, and how they grilled them on select committees.
Lots of people have raised this with you. This is not just us. This is not the first. I do not believe this is the first time you have heard this. Allegations and concerns that your algorithms are promoting more and more extreme content at people. Whatever they search for, what they get back is a whole load more extreme recommendations coming through the algorithms. You are the king of the search engine. And yet, your search engines are promoting things that further and further radicalise people. Whatever they search for, they get something more back.
And we are working to make sure that is not happening.
And they could have brought out legislation to fine these companies, because Google, for instance, have got their main headquarters in Dublin. and YouTube is in Dublin, their main headquarters for Europe, you know. So, you know, they've spent a lot of money there, millions and millions of pounds to build these huge buildings, hundreds of millions. They've got loads of people working there, thousands of staff. It's either nearly 1,000 or over 1,000 staff working in these headquarters, you know. So there's a lot here that Google have to be careful what they do and YouTube do. So you can't just keep blaming them and saying, you know, they're all psychos that are running Google and Facebook. They're businessmen, you know what I mean? They're billionaires, but they're businessmen, you know, so they have to go along with the state machine in all the countries in the Western world, which is in Europe and within America. And our freedom of speech is just slowly being removed, but it's not them, it's the government that's doing this. And the ironic thing is, you know, we are the ones that vote the government in. We are the ones that stand by and watch what they're doing and how they use the media, you know, the TV media and the newspaper media from Fleet Street, and how they use that media to indoctrinate us. And we really believe everything they tell us. I mean, I'm not saying everything they tell us is wrong, but they do spin doctor stories. That's a well-known phrase in Fleet Street, spin doctoring stories. They do this. That's normal. That's always been normal in Fleet Street. So you can have a journalist that goes out, does a story, and when he gets back, the story ends up totally different than what it actually was when he went there. So, you know, this is it. The viewing of reality is different the way normal people view reality. I mean, I've just clicked my finger. That is reality. You've just seen it. I'll do it again. But if a journalist sees that, he'll interpret it in a different way or put it across in a different way. And this is the situation that we're in, friends. You know, truth seekers now are just not liked anymore. You know, we're not liked. The new normal is on the scene, which I believe manifests itself from the middle class community. A lot of people say to me, oh, don't be going on about the middle classes. They don't exist anymore. They do. We're still a class-ridden country in this country. We've still got different classes, the main ones being the working class, the middle class and the upper middle class. But there's many other classes, but they're the main three. You could put it different way. You could fan it out to maybe 7. But this is the situation that we're in, and until we can stand back and realise this and understand the way that we're thinking isn't really based on reality and factual reality, things are just going to get worse. We're moving into a tyranny. Our government is tyrannical, and things are not going to get any better. So we could end up living in a dystopian or a dystopia, a dystopian world. The Western world could become dystopian because of a handful of narcissists and psychopaths running the world, and a lot of globalists. And remember, there's only 2,215 billionaires on the planet, which I've told you, and there's a coterie of about maybe 40 of them, 60 of them at the top, who are pulling all the strings. They've got the most money. We know what their names are, so I won't mention their names, but we know who they are. And unless we face up to this reality, you know, things are never going to get better. I mean, the person in the street believes everything the government says, believes everything the media says, everything the newspapers say, the TV, the British Brainwashing Corporation, the BBC. It's really hard, you know, when you're an emancipated person, not a conspiracy theorist. I mean, there's nothing wrong with conspiracy theorists. A lot of times, you know, conspiracy theorists' theories turn out to be factual. But, you know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, obviously. I try to look at things from every single angle, you know. I don't just make straightforward statements and this and that and the other. I try to look at things, to look at why YouTube are doing the things, why Facebook is censoring people. And basically it's because of the state machines. Germany, you know, the governments in Germany, Holland, this country, America, right around the world. And things are going to get worse in America. And you know, when things get worse in America, it tends to fan out right across the Western world, which we haven't got much to look forward to in the future, friends. But oppression's a terrible thing, to take away people's rights to freedom of speech, and also to subjugate people through fear. Fear is the main way that they subjugate people. They don't just do it at central government level and through the media, they do it even within our communities, through fear. That's why criminals are never touched. These generational criminal families, these gangster families, are left in working class communities because they instill fear into the community. And the best way to control any community or anything or any body of people is through fear. But in this country, we're very good at it because we had the British Empire. We used to do this in the British Empire, in the countries that we ruled when we were the British Empire. We had very, very subtle ways, we're very subtle, the British, especially the British middle class. Very, very subtle and very devious, in the way that they do things. And, I'm not a class warrior. I've got friends who are middle class. Many of my family now are middle class. They went to university, they're solicitors, geologists. Many of them are living in the middle class suburbs. Good on them. I'm not having a go at the middle classes, but they do tend to be high up in the public services, and they're high up in other positions, so they do lord it over the working classes, people like me. But not all of them are bad. I'm not talking about all the middle classes. There's a lot of middle class people who don't even see themselves as being middle class anyway. And a lot of middle class people now are former working class and they still see themselves as being working class. So it's a big debate that I don't want to go into. I've been accused many times of bringing that into the argument, the middle class thing into the argument. It sounds very socialist as well, in the Communist Manifesto, what did Karl Marx call them and Engels? The bourgeoisie and the petty bourgeoisie, who were the tradesmen, and the proletariat, who were the working classes. But things have changed a hell of a lot since the Communist Manifesto was written in the 1800s. Things have changed a hell of a lot since then, It's a pity, really. Everyone should be middle class, really. Everyone. There shouldn't be any classes, But we're miles away from any utopian existence, a word that the middle classes hate. The word utopia makes the middle classes reel back in horror, because they think it's impossible to create a utopian world where people can actually live their lives without worry of being in poverty. They have enough money to live on. I'm right wing, really. I'm over to the right. I used to be over to the left until I saw the behaviour of the left, and there's no way that I wanted to live in a communist or even in a democratic socialist society, because I was in the Labour Party and I saw the behaviour of the Labour Party, and look what they did when they were in power. They bankrupted the country, and they even left a note for the Conservatives: there is no money left. The Conservatives, when they got back in again, they made dreadful choices. Gordon Brown did. Mass immigration into the country from third world countries. They flooded London so that 55% of 10 million people in London now are comprised of immigrants from third world countries and other countries as well. And London now last year it had a worse murder rate than New York. And this is the situation that we're in, and the Labour Party caused that. Not the Tories or the Liberal Democrats, the Labour Party. And they were dragooning people in. Mandelson was, and Blair. That was a dreadful government. They bankrupted the country. They were taxing everyone. Even, for instance, road tax for your car doubled in the 13 years that they were in. And they had stealth taxing going on and everything, And this is all factual because you can read about it on the internet or in the media from the past, what they were doing. We've got a Labour council now in the city where the mayor now has just been suspended, and he's had to take leave while the deputy mayor takes over through allegations of bribery and witness corruption and other types of corruption and fraud. All this is going on now with our mayor. Now, I'm not saying the mayor's guilty. He probably will be found not guilty, you know. But the fact is that this has even happened is a scandal. There's council officers involved in this, and elected members and members of the mayor's family and other famous people who are involved in this in the city. And they're under investigation, and the Matrix team were involved in this. This is the armed police in Liverpool. It's a very, very heavy duty team of policemen, you know. They're involved in this investigation. People have been arrested, they found money in builders' houses, and all sorts of different things, you know. And we haven't heard the last of this because Joe Anderson is under investigation at the moment. Now, this is factual. This is actually happening. You know, it's a disgrace that this is even happening. A disgrace. And again, we're a Labour-run city, and still, you know, the people of Liverpool, they don't even know anything about it. It's written in the Echo. There's not much of it being on the TV about it. Yet the Liverpool Echo have made Joe Anderson out to be some sort of heroic entity, even though all this is happening to him at the moment. The Echo even refuses to believe that the mayor is capable of this, you know, because the mayor has done this and the mayor has done that. And the Liverpool Echo obviously is a pro-left-wing leaning newspaper owned by Trinity Mirror, who own the Daily Mirror, you know, and they also own other newspapers, you know, which are right-wing thinking. And this is a dichotomy. This is the dichotomy connected with Trinity Publications. I think they're still called Trinity, but they may have changed their name, I'm not sure, because they're always changing their name, because they're always changing the goalposts. And they own all the local newspapers in the north of England, the Liverpool Echo, the Manchester Evening News, the Bradford newspapers, all around all these towns and cities throughout the north of England. Trinity own them. And, you know, a lot of decisions of what stories will be in those newspapers, major stories, are made up in London, because London find out what's going on in Liverpool, and they sort through things. So the editor, really, of the Liverpool Echo, Alistair McRae, I think his name is, he's not really the dude that pulls all the strings. This all happens up in London, you know, and he has to do and obviously edit the stories in such a way that will please them, and it's all pro-Labour. Hence the fact that they're trying to make Joe out, the mayor, Uncle Joe he's known as, to be this heroic figure, you know. They say Joe and the Labour Party in Liverpool are coated in Teflon. Do you ever remember Teflon pans? Nothing sticks. That's what they say, but Joe hasn't been found guilty yet, so don't let me put it across to you like he's been found guilty. He hasn't, and he, as I said before, he'll probably be found not guilty. But at the present moment, I'm fed up. I mean, I've said this before, I've got cancer at the moment. I'm battling against cancer. I'm really worried about cancer. You know, I face a massive operation. I don't know whether I'm going to have the operation yet, because it's so frightening. It's such a technically, it's very technical for the surgeon, an operation, what he's got to do. I've been trying to lose weight. I've lost 2 stone, but I've got to lose more. And I've only got 7 or 8 weeks to go till I have this operation, so I'm really scared with that, you know. But, you know, I'm a Christian as well, so I don't tell lies, you know. And if I do tell lies, I'm unaware that I've done it, you know. That's why I try and be as factual as I can about what I say on YouTube, you know. But I hope I haven't depressed you anyway. I always finish with that. I hope I haven't depressed you, but things are getting bad, brothers and sisters. Things are really getting bad. You know, when we have no right to freedom of speech anymore, we can't gather together anymore, we can't have demonstrations anymore. You know, we're being oppressed by psychopaths and narcissists at central government level within Whitehall. Senior civil servants are narcissistic and psychopathic, and we've got MPs who are of the same ilk. Not all of them, but a lot of them, because, and I'll conclude with this, over many, many years, hundreds of years, is it 200 years that the House of Commons came about, or 150 years, 200 years. All of those years, it's probably, I don't know, if you Google it, you'll find out when the House of Commons came into existence. or the House of Parliaments. And it's evolved in such a way that con merchants make it to the top. Really clever confidence tricksters. And confidence tricksters are narcissistic in the way that they think. Very clever narcissists, you know. And they're the sort of people now that sit on this cabinet. A lot of them educated in Oxford and Eton and Cambridge and other top universities, all millionaires and all globalists, or nearly all of them anyway. And what can we do? You know, what can we do? How have we allowed this to happen? Well, and I've said this before and I'll say it again and I'll keep repeating it, we need to promote empathic people, you know. And we do know that narcissists and psychopaths, you know, they can, in some things, they're really good at it, you know what I mean? So we don't just boot them out of existence, do you get me? We find out what they're good at and put them in those positions. But, you know, not all psychopaths are killers and criminals, do you get me? And narcissists certainly aren't. Well, most of them aren't. We find positions that we can put them in, which best suit them. But we try to get empaths in positions of high positions within Parliament and MPs. I believe all MPs should be empathic, you know, but a lot of people will argue the toss on that. But, hell, I'm open to debate. Let's debate these things. I mean, I believe in critical dialogue, you know. I believe in critical dialogue. Let's debate these things. I'm open to debate. Not, you know, I believe in critical dialogue, not monologue, dialogue. Anyway, I'm a bit fed up at the moment with what's happened in America and what's happening in this country, and the fact that we can't really talk about it in depth or criticise it. You know, we can't indulge in critical dialogue, lest our voices be removed from these really fantastic platforms, or these major platforms, which is YouTube, Facebook and Twitter, and there are other platforms as well, which I can't remember the names of them now right off my head, which are major platforms as well. But anyway, hope I haven't depressed you, but thanks. I hope you had a great Christmas, and I hope you have a happy New Year.